The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
In these bleak times, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for President of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter into quest for truth. I enter into quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life.
Today is Tuesday, June 6, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me. That was none other than the voice of Dr. Cornel West announcing yesterday on June 5th that he would be running for president of the United States of America, and he will be running on the Movement for People's Party political ticket, the also known as the People's Party, which is a misnomer, but I will discuss the party that he has affiliated with a little bit later. I want to talk about the man, the legend, the myth, Dr. Cornel West, who I consider myself to be a student of Dr. West, and though I've never sat in a lecture with him, I still have studied his work for at least the last 20 years. I mean, I have read his works, I've listened to his lectures, I've watched his sermons, and I am a huge supporter of Dr. West, which is why it pains me to have to stop and ask the question, Dr. West, what the hell are you doing? And I ask that question even at great risk to myself because of the circles that I run in, a lot of my colleagues and comrades, and quite frankly, a lot of my supporters support Dr. West and are likely to support his campaign. So I don't want you to think that I take this, what I'm saying, lightly or haven't sat down and thought this through with a significant amount of concern and attention. But I come to this question this morning because of the times in which we live. I really have to pause and ask Dr. Cornel West, a man who I admire so much so that I still, when he came on the show with us about 3 years ago, he was on the show and he mentioned that he had read my book, God is Not a Republican. And honestly, I'm still flattered to this day. So I want people to understand my objection to Dr. Cornel West is not on substance of his character. And it's certainly, I'm sure it won't be on the substance of his campaign, because I'm certain they're going to be almost one for one. He's going to represent what I stand for. But when we look at the political viability of a third party in this country, specifically the party that Dr. West has affiliated himself with, the People's Party, which is run and founded and run by a white man by the name of Nick Brana. The People's Party that Dr. West is running on is, just 6 years old. They have no chapters in any part of this country. There are no local chapters that are in position to actually help Dr. West win. Not even win, but to even get on the ballot. And as we look at what happened in 2016, we look at what's going on in the build up to 2024. One of the most valuable commodities for the Republican Party right now, which is so much further than just your regular standard Republicans. We're dealing with fascists who have made it clear that their goal is to eradicate leftism and wokeism and to leave it. What did Ron DeSantis say?
We will fight the woke in education. We will fight the woke in the corporations. We will fight the woke in the halls of Congress. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. We will make woke ideology, leave it to the dustbin of history. It's gone.
That's what we're fighting against in 2024, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Ron DeSantis and his war on all things black, on all things progressive, on all things that quite frankly, Cornel West stands for.
I come from a tradition where I care about you. I care about the quality of your life. I care about whether you have access to a job with a living wage, decent housing, women having control over their bodies, health care for all, de-escalating the destruction of the planet, the destruction of American democracy.
Listen, you're not going to get me to disagree with Cornel West on what he's fighting for, what he stands for. I absolutely agree with everything that he just listed. I'm going to play more of his announcement speech that he gave yesterday. But I mean, as it stands right now, I agree with everything that Cornel West stands for. I just believe and quite honestly know that two things: the party he has affiliated himself with is dysfunctional. It is run by one person who just started that party 6 years ago, and they do not have the ballot access, nor do they have chapters locally. They don't have the organizing capacity. They've never organized anything more than a single protest. That is the extent of the People's Party organizing prowess. And in fact, this is the biggest moment for the People's Party ever. They tried to run a right-wing comedian by the name of Jimmy Dore for president in 2024, but when they saw that wasn't getting any traction, the Movement for People's Party, the party run and founded by Nick Brana, they went and got Cornel West, whose name is big enough to be the biggest thing that ever happened to that party. Now, you tell me if that party is in position to do anything more than be a sandbag for the progressive movement, to be an aid for the fascist movement. At best, if Cornel West was to get 2, 3, 4% of the vote, that's 2, 3, 4 percentage points that are going to be critical in 2024. So no, you're not going to get me to disagree with what he stands for. I absolutely agree. I am a supporter. I am a fan. I consider myself a student of Dr. West. But I also know this timing is exactly what Republicans need to get fascism all the way through the front door.
We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech.
I would like to know what this truth is that he is referencing in regards to Ukraine that neither party wants to tell. My guess is that this would be the one place. This is that 1% that I disagree with Cornel West on. I wonder if that truth is going to be saturated in the idea that the way towards peace in Ukraine is to take away the weapons that the world has given to them in order for them to defend themselves against Vladimir Putin. Because the very talking point that has come from the circles that the political party he is now affiliated with, the party that Cornel West is running for president on, their political stance has long been that the way to peace is for the Ukrainians to surrender to Vladimir Putin. I wonder if that is now Dr. West's talking point, because that most certainly would be a place where I disagree with them on. But I mean, everything else I agree with him on what he stands for, which makes his campaign that much more dangerous, because there are going to be a lot of people, conservatives, who are willing to invest in this particular campaign because of the unique opportunity it presents to sandbag the Republican Party all the way into the White House, to sandbag the Democratic Party so that the Republican Party can make it all the way to the White House with Ron DeSantis. Does anyone really want to hear that? Not really, because what Cornel West's campaign does uniquely is that it inspires hope. And it inspires hope in the face of a real, legitimate threat of fascism. And it's not even a threat of fascism. It is our last opportunity to expel fascism out from our temples through the electoral process without us actually having to get physical. That's what 2024 represents. But this unique time in American history is so difficult because there are people who look squarely in the face of fascism and say, well, I don't care we shouldn't have had a two-party duopoly. They look squarely in the face of Ron DeSantis and say, well, I don't care if he gets elected because I'm ready to stick it to the Democrats once and for all. This is the year we're finally going to dim exit. Well, that's what makes this particular campaign so dangerous at this particular moment. And we'll talk about that more after this break. Again, I want to continue this conversation, and I want to continue it from the vantage point of how I genuinely feel and the respect that I have for Dr. Cornel West. He was on the show with myself, Marcus Farrell, and now Mayor Mundell Robinson back in 2020. And he mentioned, well, first of all, I was just excited to be on the show with him because I have that kind of respect for Dr. Cornel West. And I still, even now, I'm still grinning ear to ear because that brother took the time to read my book. Now, anyone who's ever written anything, even an article, you're honored to have just anybody read your stuff. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, you don't have to be so-called famous, but when people read your stuff and give commentary and feedback and they actually engage with your thoughts, that is a rewarding feeling as a writer. Now imagine how excited I was to have someone like Cornel West, an intellectual giant, to read my work and then mention it to me. I just want people to understand the position from which I am disagreeing with his campaign for president is from the position of admiration, respect, and most of all, disappointment that I have to publicly disagree with someone I admire so much.
And that's what you basically got in the last 50 years. When I read God is Not a Republican, I appreciate that, brother. That's about 8 years ago. I appreciated that book. Yeah, absolutely.
You read my book?
Lord, yeah. 2012 when it came out, man. That was serious.
You got to forgive me, Dr. West.
Complacent. We're not going to be complicitous. We got a conception of God that's not reducible to all of this right-wing commodified.
Now,
hey,
Marcus,
we ain't never going to have to talk him down from that tree.
You never going to let that
coming back down.
No, let me tell you something. Dr. West read my book when it came out in 2012. Hot damn, I'm somebody. I feel like Jesse Jackson this morning. I am somebody. You are somebody. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, Ben Dixon got his book read by Dr. Cornel West. To that end, then, Professor. So I just want folks to understand that, like, this is a really difficult thing for me to have to disagree with someone that I admire at that level. Okay, like I'm grinning right now. Dr. Cornel West is the man. Okay, he is the man in my tradition. The liberation gospel tradition, progressive leftist, populist politics. I mean, if there was a protest, matter of fact, I mean, how many times have I run into Dr. West at various protests, and there he was on the front line. Okay, so if there's a type of person that you want to be in the White House, it is most certainly Cornel West. Here's the problem. The party that he is affiliated with is in a far worse condition than the Green Party. And I don't say that to insult the Green Party. I say that so that you could look at the statistics from the 2020 and the 2016 election, the 2016 election specifically. In 2016, there was a full-blown revolution against the Democratic Party, the dim exit. That, matter of fact, that's where I first met Cornel West in person, was in Philadelphia in 2016, which was representative of the full push to exit the Democratic Party because every one of us knew that the Democratic Party wasn't doing anything for us at that time. That's when Jill Stein was running for president. And Jill Stein had support all over the country. The Green Party was organized. This was their big chance to get a percentage of the vote and really show the Democratic Party that the people were organized and ready to beat back against their corporate duopoly. And the Green Party got 1% of the electoral vote. 1%. The problem is that in some key states, that 1% was a critical 1% that aided and abetted Donald Trump's victory. We're not even talking about the Green Party here, folks. We're talking about the Movement for People's Party that is underneath the direction of Chairman Nick Brana, who already has a reputation for being unable to organize anything more than a protest and not even being able to do that well, right? He has a reputation for harassment. Just look at my good friend and my colleague, my comrade, Owen Higgins' timeline. If you want more information on the character of the man behind the Movement for People's Party, the party that Cornel West is affiliating with to run for president. The man has not a track record of winning a single thing, but he has captured one of the most dynamic voices in this country. I mean, one of the most prolific Black voices on the face of the planet. One of the most prolific voices in the country, Cornel West. Somehow or another, Nick Brana got Cornel West to join up with his party. And this was after the People Party tried to run Jimmy Dore for president. And now they're going with Cornel West, who has the reputation, who has the notoriety, who has the positions necessary to garner the kind of support that would ultimately give the White House to someone like Ron DeSantis. That's the problem I have. It's not with Cornel West as a human being, because I love and admire that man. It's not about his policy positions, because I agree with 99% of what he stands for. Let's see what he stands for in Ukraine. It's the fact that he's affiliated with a party that's destined to lose.
Go to www.patreon.com/TheBPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
Here we go. Very special welcome to our two newest patrons. Shout out to Perry Anderson and Tiger, one of our producers. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. This entire patron party is for the two of you. Come on, turn it up. Oh, wait a minute. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/TheBPD Show, where you get twice the content, none other commercial interruptions, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party. We have one coming up this week. My belated birthday party, patron party, this Friday night, patreon.com/TheBPD Show, and we'll see the rest of you after this commercial break.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
It's the irrationality of the move that bothers me. And I'll talk a lot more about this in the patrons only episode, patreon.com/TheBPD Show. You know, it's the irrationality of making a move on the national level in a fashion that is designed to lose. Now, this is where I think most people who hold out hope for a third party to come and challenge this duopoly are going to disagree with me, and probably disagree vehemently. But to engage on the national level in this duopoly, this war between a duopoly, because let's be sure, while we call it a duopoly, saying that this is a single party, this is the general argument that comes from leftist circles, and I tend to agree with them, that when we look at on the national level, we're actually dealing with one party, two wings of the same party. And we are always put in a position to have to choose between the so-called lesser of two evils. And over time, the lesser of two evils still lends itself towards particular evils that we are now enduring the culmination of all of it, right? We have been chasing the lesser of two evils for at least the last 40 years. 40, 50 years, if you depending on when you put the benchmark for the beginning of neoliberalism, whether or not you put the benchmark for the beginning of neoliberalism during Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan, right? That tells you how long we've been chasing the lesser of two evils in this specific paradigm. Now, the argument that comes from people, and I actually, there's a clip of Dr. Umar Johnson, who is making this particular argument that we should disengage on the national level so that we can teach the two-party system a lesson. Okay, so that's one side of the response, right? So in response to a duopoly, in response to a two-party system that's actually one party that has complete control over this country, the solution that is given by some is that we just don't engage at all, that we disengage, and that will get the attention of the two-party system in favor of black folks or in favor of, marginalized groups. The other is what Dr. West is doing, which is let's mount a third-party run. Both of these so-called solutions really fall apart when you think one step further than what is being said out of their mouths. As it pertains to someone like Umar Johnson, who says that we should not engage because, well, that's going to teach them a lesson. The fact of the matter is that the two-party system democracy does not require a majority of Americans. It just requires the plurality. In other words, if you disengage, then the party simply looks for a way to win with a smaller pool of people. That's it. And we've seen that both parties are very effective at maintaining and expanding their power with fewer people engaged in the political process. The problem is when you think of someone like Umar Johnson's strategy, which is prolific in the black community, which is like, let's just not engage at all, it completely undermines someone like Dr. Cornel West, who needs all of those people who are politically disengaged for him to even get to 1%. Both of those strategies become significant enough for only one result. You're only going to get one result out. You're not going to teach the party a lesson. You're not going to change the duopoly system by disengaging. And when you're dealing with a third party who at best in this system is able to get 1, maybe 2%, you're dealing with a strategy that is designed to lose. A strategy that at the end of the day does one thing. It inspires hope, but it does not get victory. And I'm just of the opinion that when we're dealing with someone like Ron DeSantis, who has no problem using every political lever necessary to get his agenda accomplished, who has made it clear that he's declaring a war on blackness by saying it's wokeness, who's declared a war on women, who's declared a war on every single marginalized community that you could think of, who has made it clear that he's standing for white male Christian supremacy and nothing else. This is not the time. That's just me, right? You can feel free to believe and govern yourself accordingly. But when we look at the times in which we live, can we seriously say that it's time for us to turn this democracy over, the executive branch of this democracy, the executive branch, the power of the military, the commander-in-chief of our armed forces? What we're saying is that we as a nation should engage in political strategy that would turn over that power to a fascist like Ron DeSantis. Well, I can hear someone in the audience saying this. Well, no, Ben, I'm not saying I want Ron DeSantis to win. I'm saying that I'm just tired of the duopoly and that I want to vote for someone who inspires me. I don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils, and I'm ready for something to actually change. And to that, I would say this is precisely why Dr. Cornel West's campaign for president is particularly dangerous in this moment, because it gives you all the trappings, all of the sensation, all of the hope and idealism that we had back in 2015 with Bernie Sanders, right? It gives you all of the aspirations and the hope for blackness, because you know that this is a black man who loves his people. You know that you're putting your time and your hope and your aspirations into someone who's going to fight for every marginalized group. We know that everything that's going to come out of the mouth of Cornel West is going to be exactly what needs to be said, which is why I believe Dr. West's campaign is a particularly dangerous temptation at this moment, because it's going to give you all of the hallmarks and the sensation that's necessary to inspire hope in you. And that hope, while it is critical for our survival, while it is critical for our organizing, it becomes extremely dangerous when the person that you are inspired by is not only associated with a political party that does not have the prowess to do anything more than be a sandbagging party. I mean, no one can reasonably say that this party that just came into existence 6 years ago has enough political infrastructure or wherewithal to mount a campaign that can win. But you know what they can mount? A campaign sufficient enough to give Ron DeSantis the margin of victory necessary. That's why this campaign, it bothers me and it troubles me, not because of the caliber of the man. I respect and honor the caliber of man that Cornel West is, not because of what he stands for, because I am sure he's going to regularly say something that makes me say amen. It's the fact that he has now positioned himself, and the party that he's affiliated with, they have positioned his reputation, his stature. They have leveraged the hope that Cornel West inspires to become an investment tool into a party that does not have the wherewithal nor the capacity necessary to win victory. But they do have someone on their ticket that will inspire you to have hope, which is amazing, except for when you have hope in the right person, but at the wrong time. That's dangerous. When you have hope in the right person, Cornel West, but a person is affiliated with the wrong institution, that's dangerous. And when you have hope in the right person, but the wrong strategy, well, that's a ticket for Ron DeSantis to make it all the way to the White House. That's all I have for the public show. Patrons, stay tuned. We'll talk a little bit more. Patreon.com/the BPD show. Everyone else, I'll see you tomorrow.